Hello. In our previous lecture, we started looking at the different operators that Java provides, and we went ahead and we covered the arithmetic operators. In this video, we'll talk about relational operators. Well, I have them there as comparison operators. You would commonly find these two terms used interchangeably when you read through documents online or maybe textbooks. You hear some people refer to them as comparison operators, others will refer to them as relational operators, others will just use the words interchangeably in their write-ups. So whenever you hear any of these, be it comparison operators or relational operators, you should know they basically refer to the same thing. Now, Java provides a total of 6 relational operators, which should not look very deep or very strange to us. The first one we have here is the equal operator. Now, you want to be careful. This operator is actually different from the equal sign. Look at this, is two equal signs put together with no space, which is different from the assignment operator that we use to assign values to our variables. We're going to see that in action shortly. We also have the not equal to operator, which is an exclamation point and an equal sign put together with no space between them as well. We have the less than, the greater than, and the less than operators, which I'm sure we are very familiar with. And we have the greater than or equal to and the less than or equal to operator. So let's get down to some code and actually see how these operators are used in action. So I'll bring up my NetBeans IDE and NetBeans, and I'm just going to create a class here. I'll call it new. I'll go to new Java class and I'll create a class. I'll call it comparator. Yeah, comparator. Now remember what we said about naming conventions for classes. Every time you want to name a class, make sure you use a noun and let it reflect exactly what your class represents. So I would come here and I'll declare some variables, int x and y, and I'll write a method public. You could define anything. You could define a float, you could define a short, you could define a long, anything you choose to use. And I'll create a method public void compare. And inside there, I'm going to write some code. So let me initialize my variables first. I'll say x is equal to y is equal to z. Sorry, is equal to 20. No, I can't do that there. Sorry. If I want to initialize them, I'll have to do it inside here. Or maybe I should just initialize them on the same line here. Well, let me do it here so that I show you the syntax I wanted to show you before. X is equal to y is equal to 20. You can also do that. What happens here is I just started using these because we have not used it before. So what happens here is y is going to have the value 20 and then x is going to have the value 20. Alright, so I'm going to use one of the flow control statements. I'm going to use an if statement for us to see how the relational operators work. Well, I'm sure if you're coming from a different programming language, you should already know how the if statement works. If you're not coming from that, I'll explain it a little here, but we'll talk detailedly about the if statement and the other parts of it, like the else block, when we talk about flow control. So I could say if y or if x is equal to y, then you get in here. For those who don't know how the if statement works, let me just mention it here since we're on it. With the if statement, now this is a comparison operator. Remember, I said it's two equal signs put together with no space between them. What happens here is the operand to the left here is compared to what you have on the right. And if this expression here results to true, like if all of these evaluates to true, then what is inside here will be executed. If not, it will just jump and it will not execute this block. I'm going to add something here so that when we execute, we actually see what happens. System.out.println, and I'll say program. Okay, no. Relational operation complete. Okay. And I'll print here system.out.println, and inside there I'll say they are equal. Now, like I said, it compares the value of x and y, the value of x to that of y, and if they are the same, then this expression will result to true. So if this expression results to true, we are going to get inside this block and we will see this line printed. If not, then we will only see this line here and we will not see the statement that says they are equal. So with that said, I'll go into my main method. Remember, you always start your application will always start running from the main method. So I'll take out what's there, and I'll create another variable of type comparator, and I'll call it comp is equal to new comparator. Good. And now I'll say comparator dot, I'll call the compare method, and when I run my program, it should print out what is written in the compare method, execute all the lines in the compare method. So when I print it out, bam, good, that's what we have. It says they are equal. Relational operation complete. So if we come to our code, let me close this since we are not using the person class. If we come to our code here, you see what's happening. Inside here, we try, remember, we initialize the two to the same thing. We said x is equal to y and y is equal to 20. What happens here is the value 20 gets assigned to y, and then the value of y, which is now 20, gets assigned to x. So y and x are all 20. But if we take this out, just before we take it out, you see, because y and x have a value 20, when you execute this evaluates 20 is equal to 20, and this evaluates to true, and it gets inside this block and it brings they are equal. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to define another variable here. For example, int z. Well, let me just define the variable here since I have all of them as instance variable. Int z, no need to do that, comma z, and I'll say z is equal to 35. Good. And now when I say x is equal to z, what's going to happen? The value of x is 20, the value of z is 35. Is 35 equal to 20? That's no. So this expression here will evaluate to false, and what's going to happen? The code will not enter this block, so it will just keep this block of code, and we will only see relational operation complete. So let's run that. Oh, you see, it's not equal. 20 is not equal to 35. Z is not equal to x, or x is not equal to z. So that fails, and we never enter this block. So you see, like we said, the equals operator compares the left operand to the right operand, and if returns true or false depending on their values. If they are equal, it's going to return true. If they are different, then it's going to return false. We could do maybe minus here, and it's still going to return false. You see, this part of the code is not executed. We could decide to change this to a minus 35 too, and we execute it again, and now you see that part of the code is executed correctly. Now you want to be careful with this. If I change this and I put one equal sign, be careful. This is not going to work. That's an assignment operator. You're assigning the value of z to x. That's not comparison. The equals operator, the comparison operator in Java, is two equal signs put together. So you must do that. If you put one, Java will not understand what you're saying. Now the next one is the not equals operator. Not equals. Now this operator, like the equals, unlike the equals which returns true if the two are equal, the not equals only returns true if the two are different. Like, is x equal to y? In this case, is minus 35 not equal to minus 35? That's false, because minus 35 is equal to minus 35. So we say, is x, which is minus 35, not equal to z, which is minus 35, and that statement is false. So this evaluates to false, and this block of code is not executed. So if we run this, you will see we only have the result relational operation complete. There is nothing saying they are equal. Let me change this to they are not equal. Not equal. So if I run this again, you see nothing happens, because x and z are actually equal. They all have minus 35. They both have minus 35. And we are saying x is not equal to z, which is false. Now if we change these to maybe 4 and we run it again, now you see what happens. It brings they are not equal, which is true. Minus 35 is not equal to 4. So what happens here is the not operator. Remember, it's an exclamation mark with an equal sign. The normal equal sign, you know, but there is no space between the two. You type them close to each other, and it compares the operand on the left to that on the right, and it only returns true if they are different, if they are not equal. If they are the same, it will definitely return false. So is x not equal to z? Is minus 35 not equal to 4? True, it's not equal to 4. So that returns true, and we get into this block of code. Is 4 not equal to 4? That's so fake. That's a very fat lie. 4 is definitely equal to 4, and this evaluates to false. So this block will not be executed, and we have only relational operation complete. If we change that to say 40 and we run again, now you get it. The next one that we have is the greater than. We are certainly, all of us are familiar with this. And now what is the value of x? X is 40. Z is 4. Is 40 greater than 4? That evaluates to true, and we get into this block of code. It's obvious 40 is greater than 4. So if we run this evaluates to true. This actually, what this does is it compares to see if the operand on the left hand side, x here, is greater than what we have on our right. And this certainly evaluates to true, because 40, which is the value of x, is greater than 4, which is the value of z. And if we run that, we should see this message: x is greater than z, printed out. And there we have it, x is greater than z, and it continues and brings relational operation complete. Now if we change this and let's say we set minus 40, the question now will be is minus 40 greater than 4? Is x greater than z? The value of x is minus 40, the value of z is 4, and we know that minus 40 is not greater than 4. So this should evaluate to false and it will not execute this block of code. So we say, is x, which is minus 40, greater than z, which is 4? The answer is false. So this fails and execution will not enter into the if block here, and it will jump straight right after the if statement. So we run this and we have just relational operation complete, because this statement here evaluates to false since minus 40 is not greater than 4. The next one we have is the less than operator, which is simply the opposite of the greater than, and it does the same thing. It verifies if the operand on the left hand side is less than that on the right hand side. In this case, what is x? X is minus 40, z is 4. So it's minus 40, which is the value of x, it's minus 40, which is the value of x, less than 4, which is the value of z. The answer is true, and we should get this message printed that x is less than z. Since x is minus 40, is minus 40 less than 4? That is true. So we get inside here, and if we run the code, we should see x is less than z printed out. Now, if we decide to make this minus 100 and we run this again, we would see that minus 40 is not less than minus 100. So this will not get inside here, and it should print out, it should not execute this block of code, because minus 40 is far greater than minus 100. So this will not execute, and we will jump directly to this last part. So if I execute, you see, since minus 40 is greater than minus 100, and what are we saying? We are saying minus 40 is less than minus 100. Minus 40, which is the value of z, is certainly not less than, minus 40, which is the value of x, is certainly not less than minus 100, which is the value of z, and this evaluates to false, and that block of code is not executed. Now let's say 4 and 10. Is the value of x, which is 10, less than the value of z, which is 4? The answer is no. So still this will evaluate to false, and this will not be executed. This block of code, it will not get into the if statement here. And you see that now if we change that to maybe 14, and if we run it again, now since 10 is less than 14, we have this part of the code executed. The next one is the greater than or equal to. We should be very familiar with this as well. And let's do it. What happens? It checks when you use the greater than or equal to operator. It compares the two, the operand on the left to that on the right, and it compares to see if the operand on the left is greater than or equal to the operand on the right. So if we put both at 10, for example, z at 10 and x at 10, and we run this, since 10 is greater than or equal to, the equal part satisfies, so this part of the code will be executed, and we are going to have both strings printed out. So it says that x is greater than O equal to Z. And if we run that, you can see it, because Z is 10 and 10 is certainly greater than or equal to Z, which is also 10. Now if we change this to 4, for example, is 4 greater than or equal to 10? The value of X is 4, the value of Z is 10. So is 4 greater than or equal to 10? That evaluates to false. And you see that only this part of the code is executed and this one is skipped. We could go ahead and change these to 4. Now Z is 4 and X is 10. So is 10 greater than or equal to 4? 10 is the value of X and 4 is the value of Z. So is 10 greater than or equal to 4? This certainly evaluates to true, and we have X is greater than or equal to Z that we printed, and that's what we have down here. And the last comparison operator that we have is the less than or equal to, which simply compares the left operand to that on the right as the other operators do, but this time what it checks for, since it's less than or equal to, it checks to see if the operand on the left is less than or equal to the one on the right. So if all of our values go back, let's say all of our values were 4, X is 4 and Z is 4, this will certainly evaluate to true because the equals portion of this holds true, since 4 is less than or equal to 4. In this case, the equals part holds true. And if we run that, we have here, it says X is less than or equal to 4. Let me bring that out again and you see it. Now if we change the value of X to 10, then this should fail, because we are saying is 10 less than or equal to Z, which is 4. So is 4 less than or equal to, is 10 less than or equal to 4? That is certainly not true, and we don't have this portion executed. Now if we flip those and we now say this is 10, and we say is, if we now say is X, which is 4, less than or equal to Z, is 4 less than or equal to 10? Remember, the value of Z is 10. So is X, which is 4, less than or equal to Z, which is 10? That evaluates to true, and we get into this block of code. And if we run that, we can see X is less than or equal to Z. And that should be it for the comparison operators or the relational operators. They are quite very simple. We come across that in simple mathematical operations every day. In our next tutorial, we're actually going to talk about the bitwise operators. It might not be very easy as this one, but there's nothing complicated about it. It's pretty straightforward. So we're going to address each of them as we have done with this.